Things I never thought were going to be a topic of conversation in the first week of the baseball season for 300, Ken. Torpedo bats and the New York Yankees. A lot to talk about. The Diamondbacks splitting their series against the Chicago Cubs. Torpedo bats. Just got this Jurickson Profar notice that he's going to be out 80 days.
Yeah, suspended.
PEDs. Joining us right now to talk baseball, Diamondbacks, Cubs, and all of that from ESPN, the MLB writer and contributor Jesse Rogers joining us via the air link here on Burns and Gambo. Jesse, welcome to the show. I'm Dave. This is Gambo. We appreciate the time. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Great to be with you guys.
Yeah, Jesse, I was at the game yesterday. Fascinating game with the D-backs and the Cubs, the way it all played out with Lovello using everybody and losing the DH and having Ryan Nelson come up to hit and the D-backs scoring 8 in the 8th. Really, really fun baseball game to be at.
Yeah, these teams are pretty even. I mean, these games will matter later on in the season. Obviously, the season series can matter when it comes to the wild card. They split the 4. They'll play a few more at Wrigley later on. But, yeah, I mean, I view these teams as kind of even. They both have good offenses. I think the Diamondbacks have a better rotation. I think the Cubs bullpen is better than it showed. Cubs defense is probably better than Arizona, maybe not in the outfield, though PCA is good. Like, very, very similar teams, and I think might have similar records at the end of the day. So it was a very entertaining series.
Yeah, and Tucker was just killing the ball this weekend. I mean, he's such a good player. That was a good addition. A lot of people were criticizing the Cubs for not going to get Bregman. They did end up with Tucker. Do you feel like they did what they needed to do in the offseason?
I think they did on offense. You know, kind of like Arizona, the teams that are in this tier, and I put the Cubs and Diamondbacks in the same tier, they don't spend on their bullpens, and then they come to regret it. Look what the Dodgers did. Not only did they get Tanner Scott, they got Kirby Yates. So I think both teams did well in the offseason. Cubs on offense, the Diamondbacks with the rotation, and Corbin Burns kind of falling in their lap. But did both teams do enough in the bullpen? I'm not so sure. So funny how it works. In December and January, people don't think about the bullpen. They pick up an arm here, they pick up an arm there. Come July at the trade deadline, It's like huge. Like, you can get a ton for closers at the deadline or eighth inning setup men. So I think the Cubs did well in the offseason, especially getting Tucker, but they probably could have gone a little bit further in their bullpen more than even Bregman, to be honest.
Jesse, obviously it's way too early to draw any conclusions about any of these teams or any of these players, but based off of what you saw out of the Diamondbacks in these 4 games, are there any conclusions you're thinking about maybe drawing about the Arizona Diamondbacks that you know, like ideas that kind of this weekend might have confirmed what you thought about them, strengths, weaknesses, things like that? I know it's just 4 games, but have any of those seeds been planted yet when it comes to you and the D-backs?
You know, I picked them to actually go really far last year in the playoffs, to be honest. And remember, they missed the postseason, but they tied for the wild card with 89 wins. They got eliminated because of the tiebreaker. So my point is, this has been a good team for a couple years. Nothing I saw in spring training, and I visited their camp, has told me anything different. Nothing I saw over the weekend tells me anything different. They haven't even had their best pitcher throw yet. I do worry a little bit about their bullpen. Like I said with the Cubs, Joe Mantiply gives up that big homer to Kyle Tucker. Is Puck the closer you know that you'd want compared to some of the other top contending teams and their closers? There were a lot of arms available this offseason, and I don't think the Cubs or Diamondbacks spent a lot at the back end of their bullpen. So other than that, everything I've thought about the Diamondbacks over the last couple of years kind of was confirmed. They have this incredible offense, come from behind offense. People don't know they averaged more than the Dodgers or Yankees last year. So really, I think comes down to their bullpen. I think they're a really good team, and they have been a really good team for a couple of years.
As you alluded, we haven't even seen Corbin Burns yet. We will see him tomorrow at Yankee Stadium against New York. In your mind, is this one of the best rotations in baseball now that we've seen them all once except for Corbin? Is this one of the top 5, top 10 rotations in baseball?
Yeah, I mean, arguably right there in the team photo with one of the best. I mean, when you add Corbin, I mean, if Jordan Montgomery was the old Jordan Montgomery before he got hurt, that would have been even better. But adding Burns, Rodriguez looked pretty good. Kelly and Gallen have a lot of miles on their arm over the last couple of years, but now they have help. I mean, you're not going to find 4 much better than that collectively. So, yes, I think it's right there with some of the best. Will it be the best remains to be seen, but if you're a top 5 rotation, you're off to a pretty good start.
You know, the thing on the close is fascinating, and I think that they may have gone out there and got one if they were able to trade Montgomery. But after they got Burns and they weren't able to move Montgomery's salary, they were not in the market to spend $10 million on a closer. But we've seen I mean, go back years ago with the Cubs and Aroldis Chapman, the Diamondbacks 2 years ago with Paul Sewald. It's not that difficult to go get an 8th or a 9th inning guy at the trade deadline. There's usually a good number of them that are available.
100%. It can be costly. I mean, the Angels signed Kenley Jansen for $10 million. What's he doing on the Angels? Like, you know what I mean? If he has anything left, he should be on a contender. But here's the point. What did I just say?
They're going to trade him.
Tied and lost the tiebreaker last year. The Cubs these games in March, April, they all matter. And when you're in the 80s, you're not in the mid-90s. When you're in the mid-80s or high 80s, every game matters. So, yeah, you might get someone in July, but if you've blown 20 games before July, you don't get those games back. So I don't like the idea of, we'll fix things later on when you're in the mid-80s. When you're in the 70s, who cares? When you're in the 90s, who cares? But mid-80s, high 80s, every game matters. So I don't like fixing something later on when you can blow a bunch of games before you get there.
Jesse Rogers is our guest here on the Burns Gambo Show talking baseball. Off day for the D-backs. They're in New York taking on the Yankees tomorrow. The news that we had before we went into the weekend was Brandon Pfaadt getting the contract extension. Earlier in the week, it was Justin Martinez. Earlier in the offseason, it was Geraldo Perdomo. The strategy of doing this, if you're Mike Hazen, and identifying those guys that you want to lock up to core contracts like that, is it more risk, more reward from where you're sitting at? Kind of which side of the coin do you think those are for those deals for the D-backs?
So I think the word to use there is necessary. When you are in a smaller market and you are spending pretty well in that smaller market, you've got to take a few risks. And signing up some guys before they're close to free agency is that risk. You're guaranteeing them dollars they might not earn if they get hurt or underperform. But that's what you have to do to grow your organization, make it sort of a place people want to stay. We're seeing this more and more, right? The Burns situation is a great example. Players making Scottsdale their year-long home, and you want to keep that momentum going. So I think it's necessary, because as soon as they get a close to free agency, if they're a good player, they think about New York. They think about the Dodgers. They think about the big money that's waiting for them. So you've got to take that risk. It's a necessary, I don't know if you call it evil, for the smaller market teams or teams kind of at their max payroll wise. You got to roll the dice, and I think it's a positive in that locker room. I really do. You're growing the organization. You're keeping the team together. And if someone underperforms, that's the risk of that's the price of doing business, I should say. But I like what the Diamondbacks are doing. Every ownership takes its hits, but it does feel like the money they've earned and the extra revenue that's come along these last couple of years, they've put back in the team. And if signing up a guy is what's necessary, I like it. I like what they're doing.
Jesse, have you ordered your torpedo bat yet? And if so, is this trend here to stay in Major League Baseball?
I wish my son had it. I'd be on Easy Street, back in the day.
Gambo said the same thing.
My son's a high school baseball player. He just asked me for the torpedo bat for the wood bat tournaments. Can I get a torpedo bat?
Great.
Yeah.
I love this. And I'll tell you why. There's been so many years of innovation on the mound. The technology has helped pitchers so much more than hitters. Now we found something that might help hitters. Now, look, if this turns into 30 teams hitting, 15 home runs every 4 games they play, like the Yankees, okay, we might look differently at it. But if there's an advantage to hitters that's within the rules, I mean, I'm surprised it took this long to happen. It makes so much sense. Put the meat of the bat where guys are hitting the ball. I'm just shocked. It sounds so common sense. It hasn't come along earlier. I have no problem with it as long as we're not altering the bats. You don't want them to be aluminum bats, right? Like, play within the rules, find an advantage, and run with it. I like it. I really do.
I mean, why can't we just get back to the days of putting the Super Bowls in the bats like Greg Nettles did back in the 70s?
Look, there's ways you allow steroids in the game again. Like, if you want to play, that game, we can do a lot of things, but at least it's within the specifications of the league rules. When it comes to bats,
right.
They really want to adjust offense. They would change the rules, but I like the fact that they're do things within the rules. And
sure,
it's really helped pitchers over the years. They took the sticky stuff out, and still pitchers have an advantage. Now maybe the hitters get a little bit of an advantage back, but it's again within the rules.
Jesse, we do appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us on this Monday. Thanks for the conversation, man. We appreciate it very much.
You got to enjoy the season. Talk to you soon.
Thanks. Jesse Rogers from ESPN, ESPN.com, our guest here on the Burns and Gambo show, and we appreciate him stopping by.
Thanks for watching Burns and Gambo. Click to see more from the guys and hit the button in the middle to subscribe so you never miss a video from Arizona sports.